Welcome to the first ever episode of Backlog Weekend, where we take a look at my backlog, pick a random kit, and take the whole weekend to complete it start to finish. This first pilot episode is very special because I really do have plans for the kit that I specifically chose for this weekend. So let's take a look. So this is my humble backlog. I'm not counting these Imperial Fists as part of the challenge because I'm already working on them. I turned those Blood Angels start collecting box into an Ultramarine box, but I'm still waiting on Cronus to be the tank commander for the Pred. So there's a Predator in that box. Everything else is brand new, and the Privateer Press one is for a gift from a friend, and we're supposed to paint that together. And those two boxes are supposed to be a secret diorama. That just leaves me with either the Vanguard Space Marine start collecting, the drop pod, and this guy over here. I guess we'll be going with Star Wars Legion as our winner for today's challenge, and we'll be making a little diorama. So in this case, we'll be using this plastic little cheap display case, and I really want to magnetize this so that I could also just easily take it out and use it for play should I get into Star Wars Legion. But the problem with that is if I am to magnetize this, I need to put some sheet metal, which is this over here, and this is basically roofing metal, and if I put that on, the edges will sort of show through. It won't look like an Imperial Royal Guards floor, basically. And I tried that with this before, and I could get away with the imperfections of the metal sheet because I was to put flock and basing material on it. So there's actually sheet metal underneath this, and that's why these guys don't fall off. And I could get away with that because I could just cover all the imperfections of the edges with the basing. But in this case, I cannot. So instead of covering the whole ground with sheet metal, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut apart a little bits of squares, and I'll just put 4 tiny squares of steel here, and that's just going to be the magnetization points. So I won't be able to move them around, but at least I'll know they're all going to be magnetized, and I'll have some room here on the sides to have like little scaffoldings to act as like the part of the Imperial Royal Guards floor. So for our materials, I'm going to be using sealant. So this is a local brand, but any roofing sealant or plaster, this is sort of something that I use to have the steel adhere to the plastic. And of course, when you're cutting the steel, wear some protective gloves because the edges of this hurts. So be safe, wear gloves in both hands, and that's the only time you can cut it. This is really soft steel. You could actually use some scissors to cut it, but to my understanding, there are specific shears for this. For you construction guys who know, I don't have that, so I will be enduring with my usual normal scissors for that. So the idea here is that we want to cut apart small enough squares that the bases, when put on top of them, will hide the blemishes of having the small steel squares. So I'm just really eyeballing this. So I'm just going to cut like a long strip. This seems to be about enough. So you can see it's like easy to cut, but once you cut it, it's hard to shape into a mold, and that imperfect shape makes it hard to lay flat. And I have a solution for that later. We will be cutting this into 4 individual bits. If you're asking why my right hand looks weird, this is just a bunch of spray paint. I use this to prime as well. The idea is we will seal that in, put them here, so that's where the miniatures will be placed. Let's go open this bad boy up. And here are the bases, which is the important part. Definitely a base size covers up the square. And then you have your 4 miniatures. So just to double check, there you go, 2. So I will just use that to sort of space them. I want them to be sort of like that, right? Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. I'll have the leader, electro staff guy, and 2 royal guards right there. And then this will be the area for more of the diorama. Alright, got it. So now our miniatures are in place. Let's return to the miniatures after. Do we seal up So that is where the space of everything will be. So we got the sealant, and now we're just gonna, I wish there was a way to remember where I put what. So this is gonna suck. So I guess you should have, we should have marked it better. Yikes. That is so messy. I hope the base that we apply is more than enough to cover that. Double check that. And yeah. Just realigning. Totally eyeballing it. Should have like had a marker for it. And you guys have a better way to do this, more methodically. Let me know how terrible of a job I'm doing. Again, this is not a tutorial, this is more of like a documentation of how I try to eliminate my backlog in a single day. So that's covered up there. The problem now actually that I foresee is I'm gonna have to make sure the magnets are in the right place. I think I should have made my steel roofing bits a bit bigger so that I have more allowance to place my magnet. So in my experience with dealing with this, it's not flush. I don't know if you can see it, but some of the bits are not flush on there because some of the metal roofing bits are a bit curved. So I will have a fix for that. If you watched my last video, I have some building blocks, and that is going to be my solution. So if you guys are woodworkers, I'm not a woodworker, but I've seen woodworkers do this. They basically put some wood on top of the thing they want to secure with glue or whatever, and then they put a big weight on top of it. But just to give you guys an idea of how unflat this is, there's a gap already, if you see that, and the building block doesn't lay flush. So I'm hoping the weight will take care of that. And I'll be going out in the afternoon, and that's what I'll be doing in the afternoon, just going out and waiting for that to come in. If it doesn't work, then these spaces won't be flush on the diorama, and that's gonna suck. And for whatever dirty bits of plaster are there, I'll just have to sand it off. And speaking of sanding it off, these bases do not match our diorama, which is smooth. What I could do is I could just cut up a circle and glue that on there, but I'm considering sanding it down. I don't know if that's easier or not, but here I am doing that. I just want to see how fast it takes. Okay, it's not so bad. That's only for a few seconds, and we're already getting rid of the, well, I don't know if you guys can see it, but so I'm using building blocks again to help me out since I sanded out the first one. Oh, it feels so good. I just blue tacked the remaining 3 to this building block, and now we're just like, whoops, the light went off. And now actually it's better without the light, is it? No, it's not. Okay, sanding it through right there. Takes around less than a minute, or maybe around a minute to do the whole thing. When you're working with sandpaper, it makes it tiring when you force it down and then you scrub. But you should also have faith in your sandpaper, like how you would have faith in a sharp knife, and just let the tool do the work. So just lightly, absent-mindedly do it, and in no time you should have smoother bases. So I've cleaned up the table now. Oh wow, these feel so smooth. And I've put the weighted diorama on the floor because I realized there's a bit of a curvature in my table. What I want to do now is clean up the edges of these bases and make sure that they are smooth just as how they are on top. And this is just a little nail filer, and I'm just going to take off the little nubs of white that you see there. Okay, now that that's done, all the bases are good. We're now build the minis. I want to see how I'm going to sub-assemble these guys. What I like about these Star Wars kits is they're super easy to build. Yeah, I think I'll paint them this way, and then I'll just glue this bit separately when I'm done. So I actually find Legion minis hard to clean somehow the plastic, or I don't know, is this plastic or resin? To be very rubbery and tough. But they don't have a lot of flash on them. What I'm gonna do now before I prepare them for priming is I'm gonna see if I can put the magnet at the bottom of the base, and if also I could drill little holes in the feet and I could just sort of like pin them to the base. I just want to be super secure because they might be, I know it's a display piece, but they might be gaming models for me. When it's a gaming bit, I normally pin my models to the base and glue them after a project. So I just make a little hole here at the back of his heel for one, and another one here for two. And if it's a drill bit, try not to put any force, it's just plastic anyway. Let the drill bit do its work. So before I drill in the second hole for the other foot, I make sure that I put in the first paper clip in that foot, and that determines how I will go in with the second foot, because I could go in this way, I could go in that way, but if I go in different ways, it would be harder for me to sort of insert the base in, if that makes sense. Take our paper clip and trim that out with our dirty or heavy duty pin, and I'll take some super glue and get the pointy end and just like grab a small portion of glue and use that to secure this bad boy in place. You guys see that? So this is a completely optional step to have like little pins. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna trim them so they're all on the same length, and I can measure up where to drill on the base and then dry fit them all together. When I figure out where the holes are, that's when I'll know where to put the magnet or neodymium magnet, and then we can get on to priming. Now that the lengths are the same or equal, I could get like old paint from my existing paint palette, and I'll just dip the tips to get some paint on the tips of the paper clip, and I will use that to mark where I'm to drill on the base. These two wet spots, that's where I'll drill 2 holes, pinning these bases or figures to the bases can help improve the sturdiness of your mini, should, and I hope not, should you drop them, or should I drop them for my case. There's our little finished product. The magnet is now flush on the base, and it will magnetize flat on our diorama, and I'll be able to secure this guy to his own base when I'm done, and that should be like a very secure miniature. And again, this is an optional step, the whole pinning him. I'm just very particular with how I secure my gaming figures, but if it was a display piece, I would normally just like glue him on and paint him without pinning him to the base, because I know I won't be playing around or dropping him. But before we start painting these guys, I want to let the primer dry off or cure, and then we can start building the diorama, and then prime that, then go back to these guys to paint. So this is our diorama. I want to clean this up and just sand that down, but primarily I want to have like 2 pillars here in the side, so I'm gonna have to measure that up and see how each pillar fits on each side. I have like them here on top, and I plan on getting like uneven pillars with like a little tubes. Over here, this is a roller from wax paper, and this is just like a chip tube. And maybe I'll partially put him here, and for this guy I'll put them wholly in there. I'm thinking of, you know, just adding some greeblies, like tubes, protectors from brushes, old brushes, some of these stirrers, and then some GW lids, so maybe like an extra little tube on the bottom area, and then some more like paper straws, and this is like a something for construction, helps with the rivets or the screws. Totally forgot what's that called. And then I have some broken ones of those. And then maybe like really tiny bits of sprues. This is, I think, a sprue from an apothecary set. And then these are like cartridges from a Space Marines bolter. And the exhaust of a Space Marine backpack. I'll be cutting that up, and then I'll be adding these greeblies on together. Since we're going for like a Imperial floor, we want that to be as smooth as possible. Anyway, the matte black will help us put off that smoothness. But most of these things will be covered by the base. So what we wanna cover out are the stuff outside of the area where the base will cover up. And that's just me being messy. If you guys can do this in a cleaner way, you probably don't need to do this step. So now I need to measure up how much of this jar or can do I need to cut off. And part of me just wants to play it by eye, because we're trying to do this in a single weekend, and it looks like it's up to there. So yeah, it's up to there. That's the most professional measuring I could give you guys for the moment, and wish me luck. So that wasn't the most even, but let's give it a check here, and I guess that's the best we could do. It's not a nice cut. I should have marked off the line before we started cutting as a guide for me. Anyway, we're cutting most of it off because I'm only using a quarter of this guy, because he's just going to be right there. So that means we can just take up only the neat bits and see if I can. I'll give some allowance. Draw a line and just sort of mark off where I want to cut. Thank God this is cardboard then. Yep, that's so satisfying. Ah, and now because it's not anymore a cylinder, I can cut the top and be a bit and fix that neat part. Now it's neat. Oh, that's beautiful. It's just that, of course, it's not. Oh, look at that. Let's see how that looks. Okay, it's terrible, but yeah, you guys get the picture, right? Be a little pillar here, then a small tube here. Perfect. Good job, guys. High five. Back. So now we have the size of this. We just have to match it with another pillar and do it over here. So we just gotta line that up over there and use that as a sort of ruler. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut above as an allowance and then trim it down right there. When you're cutting like this, you just want to make sort of an incision. There you go. Then when you get the whole blade in, you have that sawing motion. Oh, and it's a straight cut. Just when I cut above the measurement, that's when it becomes a straight cut. But just for curiosity's sake, let's see if that fits on its own. Let's see. It does not fit. I still need to cut off a little bit. Not so much, but a little bit. Here's to hoping we can have another straight cut again, but fat chance. Oh, that's such a terrible cut. Look at how bad that looks. Ew. And you go right there. Oh, yeah, it fits. So that's your second pillar. Normally I would use PVA glue on large terrain like this because I don't want to waste my super glue. But since we want sort of clean floor, like, you know, very smooth, like how smooth this base turned out to be, we're going to use Mighty Mod for that. And CA glue for you other people out there. I actually sanded off the parts that I was worried about that would appear unsmooth, like this torn paper. I don't know if you can see it, but there's some torn paper right there, and I just sanded a bit of that to, I don't know, get it smooth maybe. But at least I'm hoping it doesn't show off when I spray paint it and it looks like cardboard. So while these greeblies like pipes and like just random imperial, I don't know, architectural texture goes like that maybe. For these ones, these are GW lids, or parts of the lids, I'll be snipping them off and I'll be using them as texture. So the idea is just sort of want to clip it off like that and then use it to sort of wrap around the piping, and then doesn't that just like look more, I don't know, less like cardboard to you? I'll do that a couple of times and then let's see where else we can put other greeblies and stuff. That looks great, right? Not as uniform as I would like. It doesn't go the whole way, but definitely it's something. So it was bothering me that these installed greeblies were ending up nowhere or ending abruptly. So I used the coffee stirrers here to sort of add as a, I don't know, rationale as to why they stopped going around the tube. See? We've got some greeblies on the front. This is the front. So we got like a Space Marine backpack there and some fiddly bits. And there are the cartridges. There, doesn't it look very imperial to you? And let's give it a test on the cover. Oh God, please fit. Yes, it is a snug fit. It is a tight fit. So ironically, while this is a single weekend build, it is not a single weekend edit. I've just finished editing the building part of the video and we're at 20 plus minutes and I'm still not done. So I'll probably have to end the video here and I'll probably split it in a second episode for the painting. But just to prove it to you guys that it's done, this is a sneak peek of the magnetized guys over here, all fully painted and how it looks. You can check out my Instagram. I uploaded the whole project there should you want to see it, and how to paint this stuff will be in the following Wednesday. I hope you guys enjoyed the pilot episode. I guess for a pilot it is really long. I would appreciate the support, the feedback. Let me know if this is a format you want doing. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. Do subscribe if you're not already subscribing. And this has been Louis of Louis Loves Minis reminding you to hobby every day to keep the sprues away.